Probably the biggest question I have, though, regarding this Rumoured Rebels sequel animated series is this. Hey fellow Force users, what is up? It's Ahsoka Tano fan and welcome back to my YouTube channel. First off, I want to say just a special mention of Dave Prowse, who recently passed away. And for those of you who don't know, he played Darth Vader in the original trilogy. For sure, no doubt his legacy will live on. He's touched the lives of so many people. We're all very sad to hear about his passing, so may he rest in peace. As far as this video, guys, Rosario Dawson and Dave Filoni sat down recently with Vanity Fair and had a pretty revealing interview. I won't go into all the details because it kind of was a long interview, but there were a couple things that definitely stood out to me that I found interesting that I'm going to dive into, and I'm saving the best for last. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is how she was cast. That was discussed in the interview. So as many people suspected, it was the result of fan casting. Essentially, a fan had tweeted her, fan casting her as Ahsoka. She saw it and she retweeted it, and eventually, long story short, it caught the attention of Dave Filoni, who is Ahsoka's creator. At one point, Dave Filoni brought up the idea to Jon Favreau about having Ahsoka in The Mandalorian, and he asked him, well, who would you think of playing her? And he said that Rosario was at the top of his list. And then he knew Rosario, and basically at that point, they kind of knew that they had their girl. He mentions in the interview that once he met her and talked with her, he just kind of got that feeling where he kind of knew that she'd be right for Ahsoka. And honestly, like, his gut was definitely right because they did a really good job with casting, so bravo to that. I honestly can't think of anyone that could have done it better. Probably another actress that might have been good would have been Zoe Saldana, who's actually on my shirt. This is Gamora from the Marvel Universe, played by Zoe Saldana. So I feel like she also would have done well. They kind of look similar, actually, Zoe and Rosario. And I can almost also see Rosario Dawson playing Gamora. It's kind of weird. Anyway, that's kind of a side note. Apparently Rosario Dawson and Hayden Christensen had the same acting class together, and that's, I think, where they first met and took that photo that some of you have probably seen circulating over the internet by now. And then they later worked together in a movie called Shattered Glass. Literally Anakin and Ahsoka right there. I guess it was just meant to be, folks. So they did a great job with the casting, talked about how Rosario felt about it. She was very eager to get the role. At the time, she'd only seen a little bit of the Clone Wars, but she said in this interview she did go back and watch everything, which is amazing. And I love that she went back and really studied Ashley Eckstein's performance as well to honor that the best she could in order to bring the best performance possible. And she really did deliver, so I have no complaints there. One thing I really liked that they revealed in this interview regarding creating Ahsoka's look, one of the discussion points was her eye color. And so Dave Filoni basically was prepared to just let Ahsoka have brown eyes for the live action version because Rosario obviously doesn't have blue eyes. And it was Rosario that said, no, I want to try and wear the contacts because she really wanted to get in full character. And so that was pretty cool, actually, because she could have just said, no, I'm not going to wear the contacts, and you know, we would have seen an Ahsoka with brown eyes and not her signature blue eyes. So that was pretty cool that she was willing to do that, and it just shows how much she really wanted to fit the character as much as possible. They did mention that her head tails were very secure for fighting purposes, and as far as her makeup, they didn't want to overdo it to the point where Rosario would kind of get lost in all the headgear and the makeup. They did mention that, which makes sense because in animation it's much different, obviously, and sometimes you can't match exactly what's in animation to live action because it just won't be as practical and it'll look different when you actually see it play out. So, you know, I do understand why they made those changes. As someone in the comments pointed out, though, in one of my previous videos, I think it was my last one, was that Ahsoka actually usually has dark lips. I'm surprised they didn't have her wear like the dark lipstick or something, but I never really noticed that until someone brought it up. I don't think they addressed that in this interview. I guess that's just one of the things they decided to kind of scrap as a part of her new look, which is fine. Like, it still works good the way that they showed her, but definitely that was one of the things that was different from the Ahsoka animated version, as she always had dark lips, but it's not like that big a deal, honestly. So for me, the most revealing part of this interview was when he mentioned the Rebels epilogue. Now, for those of you who don't know, at the end of Rebels, sorry, kind of a little bit of a spoiler, but it's kind of relevant to The Mandalorian, we basically see an older Ahsoka team up with Sabine to look for Ezra Bridger, who went missing in action when he was fighting against Admiral Thrawn, whose name we heard drop in the last episode of The Mandalorian, The Jedi. This whole time, I've kind of been wondering, this rumored Rebels sequel animated series, where exactly is it going to fit into the timeline? Because we see Ahsoka at the end of Rebels with Sabine, and then she has to show up in The Mandalorian, but in The Mandalorian we don't see Sabine, and what he actually said was that it's possible that that shot in Rebels actually takes place after Ahsoka's Mandalorian appearance, which is kind of mind-blowing to me because I never looked at it quite like that. It's actually so true. When we see that moment in Rebels when Ahsoka is with Sabine, Ahsoka looks visibly different than she did early on in Rebels, so you can tell that some time has gone by, but we don't know how much time has gone by. If you look at that Rebels epilogue closely, you also notice that Ahsoka has the spear, but in The Mandalorian she didn't have it. We know that they ended up acquiring the Beskar spear from the Magistrate, which was supposed to be Mando's reward for killing Ahsoka, which obviously he never killed Ahsoka, but Ahsoka offered it to him, and he ended up taking it. So we know that that's probably not the spear that we see Ahsoka with at the end of Rebels. At some point, she has to acquire that spear, and so the fact that she hasn't yet is, to me, even more proof that that Rebels scene takes place after her appearance in The Mandalorian. So it makes a lot of sense that we would see her in The Mandalorian doing whatever she needs to do, trying to track down Thrawn, and then by the time we see her get together with Sabine at the end of Rebels, at that point maybe she already knows where Thrawn is, where Ezra might be, because she would have already spent time seeking out that information from people such as the Magistrate, and that's why she's going to seek Sabine, for help, or maybe somebody tells her to look for Sabine. I'm not sure exactly, but wow, that was very interesting actually, because I think a lot of fans, including myself, were kind of looking at that Rebels scene as preceding The Mandalorian. So that definitely changes the way we have to look at things now. Within the Mandalorian timeline, there's the Ahsoka live-action spinoff series, and then there's the Rebels sequel animated series, rumored to be in the works. So the first question I have is, are these series going to be happening simultaneously and in the same timeline? Because they both seem to be centered around finding Thrawn and Ezra. If that is the case, will we see the Ahsoka live action series be her trying to track down Thrawn, and then, the Rebels sequel series will show her and Sabine venturing off together? Will it be the reverse? Will Sabine show up in the live action spin-off series? I'm still not sure what they're gonna do with that. Probably the biggest question I have, though, regarding this rumored Rebels sequel animated series is this: will they have Rosario Dawson do the voice? The reason why I am asking this question is because at this point in the timeline, Rosario Dawson is the live action Ahsoka. And so it's very possible that if they create an animated series that takes place during the same timeline, they may not only allow her to do the voice of Ahsoka Tano in the animated series, but they may also change Ahsoka's animation to now resemble Rosario. And the reason why I think this is because they did something nearly identical with Saw Gerrera. For some of you, you may have seen Saw Gerrera for the first time in Rogue One, played by Forrest Whitaker, but he actually made his debut in the Clone Wars series, and he was voiced by a different voice actor named Andrew Kashino. After Rogue One, they went back into Star Wars Rebels, the animated series, and added Saw Gerrera into this series, but this time Saw Gerrera looked different. He looked like Forrest Whitaker, and he was voiced by Forrest Whitaker. Will they do the same thing with Ahsoka in this case? To be honest with you, it actually kind of would make sense for them to do that almost, although there is a small part of me that kind of would love to have a live-action Rosario Dawson Ahsoka series, as well as an animated Ashley Eckstein Ahsoka series at the same time, because then I feel like we'll be getting the best of both worlds, essentially. If what I'm thinking might happen does in fact happen, then that'll be yet again another adjustment for fans, because now you're going to be seeing not just a live action Ahsoka with a different voice and a different look, but you're going to now be seeing an animated Ahsoka with a different voice and a different look. Rosario Dawson herself has also done voice work before. For example, she did voice Wonder Woman in the Justice League cartoons. That should be very interesting to see. Either way, I do trust that they'll do a good job. They pretty much knocked it out of the park with last week's episode, The Jedi. That was easily like the best episode I've seen from the series thus far. Those are kind of just some takeaways and speculations I had from this interview. If you haven't read it, I suggest you go and do that. I'll leave the link below. Very interesting interview. I'm happy that we finally get to know more about the process of, behind the scenes, because up until now it's been so under wraps. They've obviously tried to keep it as much of a secret as they can, despite all the rumors circulating. Anyways, guys, that's it for this video. Let me know what you think or thought of the interview, and tell me your thoughts and predictions of any future upcoming episodes or spin-off series. As always, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe as well. I will do the same back, and I will respond to the comments. Thanks for watching, and until next time, guys, take care and see you in the next video.